Krishna Krishna Hare time, very loudly, meaning it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of Lord Srila Prabhupada. Welcome the devotees to our evening Bhagavad Gita circle on Monday evening. This evening we will be continuing with chapter 2, verse 62, the chapter entitled The Contents of Gita Summarized, and it will be given and read by Mother Gita from ISKCON Atlanta. Hare Krishna, Mother. Please accept my humble obeisances of Lord Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances or glories to Srila Prabhupada.
And it's all yours, Mother.
Thank you. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized, text number 62. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho abhijayate. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Purport. One who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects, and the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi. But Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not, therefore, in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. Text 63. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha, sammohat smriti vibramaha, smriti brahmashad buddhinasho, buddhinashad pranashyati. Translation. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction. Prapan chikataya buddhaya hari sambandhi vastunaha mumukshubhihi parityago vairagyam falgu kathayati. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.258. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the Absolute, being impersonal, cannot eat. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables. A devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So, after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist, therefore, cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation. And for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. Text 64. Raga dvesha vimuktestu vishayan indriyes charan atma vashyar vidheyatma prasadam adhigachati. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Purport. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable. And if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. Text 65. prasade sarva dukkhanam hane asyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhihi paryavatishtate. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Text 66. Nasti buddhi ayuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayatah shanti ashantasya kutah sukham. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Purport. Unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, 5.29, that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, that he is a proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that he is the real friend of all living entities, then only can one have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace, however much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life. Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. Text 67. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano nuvithiyate tad asya harati pragnam vayunavam ivambhasi. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Purport. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. Text 68. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nikritani sarvashah indriyani indriyartebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Purport. One can curb the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness or engaging all the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As enemies are curbed by superior force, the senses can similarly be curbed, not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called a sadhaka, or a suitable candidate for liberation. Text 69. Yanisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munihe. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. What is night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Purport. There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic man. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions. Text 70. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudram apaha pravishyanti yadvad tadvad kamayam pravishyanti sarve sashantim apnoti na kamakami. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Purport. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water, but the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities and he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruitive workers, the Salvanists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace. Should I read one more?
Yes, Mother. I think you can read one more, Mother.
Okay. Text 71. Vihaya kamam yah sarvan pumam charati nispriha nirmamo nirhankaraha sa shantim adigachati. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Purport. To become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. To understand one's actual position as the eternal servitor of Krishna without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in the world is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is the proprietor of everything, everything must be used for the satisfaction of Krishna. Arjuna did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction, but when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. Real desirelessness is desire for the satisfaction of Krishna, not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of the desires. A materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna, Ishavasyam idam sarvam, and therefore he does not falsely claim proprietorship over anything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, namely, knowing perfectly well that every living entity is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity, and that the eternal position of the living entity is therefore never on the level of Krishna or greater than him. This understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mother Gita, for such a powerful reading. One thing that I realized from the time you started reading to this verse, every purport, Sri Prabhupada repeats the word Krishna consciousness more than 3 times. Every single purport, so he's definitely saying something that we're not getting, at least I'm not getting. So it's really, really powerful. Would like to ask devotees, if you have any questions? Oh, okay, go ahead, Vishaka. She's somewhere out there.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm in a very weird spot. But adding on to what Mother Anasuya said about Srila Prabhupada repeating the word Krishna consciousness over and over again, another word that I noticed that was being repeated was peace. He kept on saying to attain peace. And I thought that was really interesting because it took me back to, I guess, I don't know if it was a podcast or something with a famous actor, you might know Will Smith, who was reflecting on teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, actually. And he made a really remarkable point where he said that a lot of people think that real happiness is pleasure, but actually it's peace, because there's nothing more agitating to the mind than pleasure. It's constantly trying to seek some type of gratification from the things around us in the material world. And that really made me think, because a lot of people do actually think that the more I get, the happier I will be. But really your happiness lies in your mindset and how you look at the world around you, because the surroundings are the same, but how you perceive it is different. And obviously it does differ. How a devotee sees the material world and how a regular mundane materialist might see the world is very different. So it made me think of, it was a nice contrast, that reminder of peace versus pleasure, and that Krishna consciousness is real peace. I don't know that, I thought there's another verse, Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam, the peace formula. So
Yeah.
it all just kind of came together when he kept on saying peace and peace. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point.
Yes, very nice points. And the reason for Srila Prabhupada to repeat Krishna consciousness and peace is because that's lacking in this material world. And he wants to make sure that, we can become Krishna conscious and attain peace and make others also Krishna conscious. So yes, he did talk a lot about Krishna consciousness and peace. Thank you.
Thank you. A very nice realization and connection, Vishaka. Dear Krishna, go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances.
Please.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Yeah, I will repeat the same thing, that Srila Prabhupada has been using Krishna consciousness so much that now I'm confused I'm sure I'm missing something that he's trying to tell us. Also, about the peace formula. So that's a very nice point, because if we are practicing Krishna consciousness or devotion, but if our mind and heart is not at peace, it means we are doing something wrong or not doing it rightly. So maybe Mother, you can, share something about more, because I also heard from my spiritual master that if you are not happy in devotion, then you are not doing it rightly. So right away correct, what you are doing wrong. Otherwise, you will not be blissful.
Yes, that is true. That is true. I was thinking about, in my days, at least in school, we used to have the theory part and the practicals, like especially in the science chemistry class, the teacher would say this plus this equals this. And then she would take us to the lab, and then we had to do it ourselves. But if we did something wrong, then the result would not be what we expected. So same applies here. Yes, the process is perfect, but those who are following it, are not perfect, and they are trying to perfect Krishna consciousness. So it's important that what we hear, we hear it from the right source, and then it's important to contemplate on it. I was talking to my god sister in Vrindavan, and she made a very important point, and she said, it is good to hear. Yes, it's very nice to hear, especially in the association of devotees, but we should not stop there. We should discuss it with at least 3 other devotees, talk about it, discuss it, and express, the realization, like just now Vishaka was, explaining her realization, like you, Dhir Krishna Prabhu, are explaining it. So it's important that there is, give and take between the devotees. So association plays an important part. And Srila Prabhupada says that training is also necessary. That's why he gave us the whole process, like have a very strong morning program, chant your rounds attentively, read and hear Srila Prabhupada's, books every day, and follow the instructions of the Guru, because the Guru is trying to help us to become fully Krishna conscious. They don't have any other agenda on their minds. Their only desire is that all the disciples can be delivered and go back to Godhead. So we need to do our part. It's there in like today we read so many verses about Krishna consciousness and peace of mind and all that, but all that can be practically possible only when we follow all the instructions of the spiritual master. So then we will reach that, kind of realize that peace formula, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam. Because our minds are conditioned in thinking, I am the controller, I am the one who's, taking care of the family. I am the one in charge, I'm the proprietor. This is my house. This is my car. This is my wife, my husband. So all those designations, it takes time to let them go. You see? So this process that Srila Prabhupada has given is so beautiful that if we follow it in association of devotees, that's very, very, very important. Very important. We must desire. We must have not just desire, intense desire to associate with devotees, especially advanced devotees, so we can learn from them, and we can kind of get the training also under them. Why did Srila Prabhupada build temples, and then he appointed temple president? Temple president is the authority that can, Anasuya, I'm not putting you on spot, but I'm just talking in general, that is the temple president, who is so compassionate, wants to give Krishna consciousness, make arrangements for, association and festivals, so that all devotees, they come together and they help each other spiritually. So association is very, very important.
Such a wonderful answer, Mother. I mean, you're explaining it so nicely, and I was getting a little ecstatic. The way, what
Thank
we should do, especially the association part. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Hare
yes,
Krishna.
yes. Actually, when I go to Vrindavan, whenever I see a senior devotee, I run. That is crazy, of course, but I run to them so that I can talk and I can listen and I can ask some questions, have some questions answered, because it is not very common, to get association, especially in the US. We are all busy. We live so far away from each other. Personal association is probably on Sundays, Now it is getting possible because COVID is kind of going bye-bye, hopefully. So yes, so association is very, very important.
That was a nice point, Mother. Actually, as you were speaking about when you go to Vrindavan, you run to a senior devotee. I was reminded of Vidur when he was asked to leave by Duryodhana, and he went on a pilgrimage, just not for vacation, but he went on a pilgrimage seeking instructions and guidance and what's right, what's wrong in spiritual life from all the acharyas and the rishis and the sages and everything. And that's the right mood, actually, is when we go to such places, we seek the guidance of senior devotees. Absolutely.
And also we need to observe them, because there are so many things we can learn from them. I remember in Juhu, when I was living in the temple, in the ladies' ashram, there was this Srila Prabhupada's disciple. Now she resides in Miami. Nartaka Gopal Mataji, I think her name was. It's been so long. So we used to discuss a lot about Krishna Katha and all that, because, there were 5 rooms, 5 Matajis living in that ladies' ashram. So in the evening, we would sit down and we would, I wouldn't say chit chat, but we would discuss Krishna Katha. So one day I noticed that I was in the temple and Aarti was going on, and this Mother Nartaka, she had something on a tray and she offered it to the pujari to give it to Srimati Radharani, and I saw it was a sari. So when the pujari did something and gave the sari back, so I asked her, what did you just do? She said, I bought a sari and I wanted to offer it to Radharani first, because everything belongs to Radha and Krishna, nothing belongs to me. So just that one incident, stuck in my head, that what consciousness, what do? We go buy clothes and wear them, no, but here she wanted to offer even her clothes to Srimati. And then not only that, she even told me that you cannot offer new clothes directly. You need to wash them, iron them, and then give it to Srimati Radharani. Why? Because the material is kind of little, it's not soft and it may not be clean. So better to wash it, iron it, and then see. So with association, we can learn so much.
That is such an amazing pastime, Mother. And as you were sharing about this Mataji, I was remembering Mother Krishna Nandini, proper disciple who left her body in 2020. She had 10 children. And yes, Mother, she had 10, and they were all home birth and they were all homeschooled. And they're all graduates from universities. She's a power woman. She was definitely a Vaikuntha woman. And I remember that she said that every time, each delivery, after she finishes delivering, within an hour or two, she would carry the child and she would go to Prabhupada in her house, the picture, and offer the child to Prabhupada.
Jai, so beautiful. Like Bhakti Vinod Thakur.
Yes.
Everything belongs to you, Krishna.
Yes. And I was like, whoa. And she said, I did it for all my children. And I would tell Prabhupada, this is your daughters or your son, you do what you want to do with them. And it was so powerful how everything is. And from that, I realized how she made everything so Krishna conscious. You know, like everything we do, everything we learn is so amazing. Yeah. Amazing topics. I know we passed the hour, the half-hour mark, but I want to ask devotees if you have any questions, any comments, any clarification that you want to add, or anything that you need to understand more, please do jump right in before we end this. And if there isn't, thank you so much, Mother Gita, for such a wonderful reading, such lovely discussion and sweet pastimes that we can all meditate on. Thank you to all the devotees for joining us. Vanchakrapudabhyascha kripasindoevacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you. Hare
Thank you, Mother Gita.
Thank
Thank
you,
you to
Mother
all the
Gita. Hare
devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, go to your
Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.